The dam holding back billions of gallons near your city is deliberately kept less than full. Because if engineers ever let it fill to the top, it could destroy itself. That's not a design flaw. That's the design. Somewhere near you right now, there's a wall of water taller than an apartment building, and the people in charge of it spend their entire careers making sure it never reaches the top of the wall that holds it back. Why would you build a giant bucket and then refuse to fill it? Because a dam isn't a bucket. A dam is a fight. On one side, you've got water, thousands of tons of it, pushing constantly, 24 hours a day, never getting tired. On the other side, you've got a wall. And here's the part almost nobody realizes. The wall isn't really fighting the water you can see on the surface. It's fighting the water at the bottom. Water pressure doesn't care how wide a reservoir is. It only cares how deep it is. Every 10 meters you go down, the pressure climbs by roughly 1 full atmosphere. The same weight as all the air above your head, stacked again and again. So at the base of a large dam, the water isn't gently leaning on the wall. It's shoving against every square meter with the force of a loaded freight car. Double the depth of the water, and you don't just double the total force on the dam. It goes up way faster than that because the pressure grows with depth and there's more wall for it to push on. Which means the last few feet of a reservoir, the water at the very top, are the most expensive, most dangerous feet in the entire system. Filling them barely adds any storage, but it adds pressure everywhere, all the way down. And it does something much worse. It brings the water close to the crest. The crest is the top edge of the dam. And there is one thing a huge number of dams simply cannot survive: water going over that edge. Engineers call it overtopping, and it's the single most common way that embankment dams die. Here's why that matters to you. When you picture a dam, you probably picture a giant curved concrete wall, like something out of a movie, but most dams aren't concrete. In the United States, the vast majority are embankment dams, carefully engineered hills, built from packed earth and rock, with a waterproof core in the middle. They're strong, they're cheap to build, they can stand for a century, but they have one fatal allergy: flowing water on their downstream face. Concrete can handle water spilling over it. Compacted soil cannot. The moment water pours over the top of an earthen dam, it starts cutting into the backslope, like a river carving a canyon on fast forward. The flow digs a channel. The channel deepens. More water follows the channel, which cuts faster, which pulls more water in. Engineers call this erosion cascade a breach, and once it starts, there is usually nothing anyone on the planet can do to stop it. A structure that took years to build can unzip itself in under an hour. That's not a theoretical fear. It's history. In 1889, the South Fork Dam sat in the hills above Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It was an earthen dam holding back a lake used by a private fishing and hunting club. Then came days of record-breaking rain. The lake rose, the water reached the crest, and it went over. The dam didn't crack or explode. It simply eroded away, and the entire lake dropped into the valley at once. The flood that hit Johnstown killed more than 2,000 people. It's still one of the deadliest disasters in American history, and it started with something as simple as water being a few feet too high. So now you know the enemy. The question is, how do you fight it? The first weapon is almost embarrassingly simple. It's called freeboard, and it's just a gap. A deliberate vertical distance between the highest allowed water level and the crest of the dam. Think of it as the dam's personal space. On big dams, freeboard can be several meters of seemingly wasted height. Height that cost real money to build. Height that will never store a single drop of water on a normal day. Why leave it empty? Because a reservoir isn't a calm bathtub. It's a lake, and lakes have weather. Wind blowing across miles of open water piles it up against the dam and whips up waves that run up the face of the structure. A storm can raise the effective water level against the dam by meters without a single drop of new rain falling. Freeboard is the buffer that eats all of that chaos. It's the margin between a windy day and a catastrophe. But freeboard only handles the small stuff. The real reason dams are kept low goes deeper, and it changes with the seasons. Take a look at how engineers actually think about the water in a reservoir. To you, it looks like one big lake. To them, it's a layer cake, and every layer has a job. At the very bottom sits dead storage, water that's below the lowest outlet, so it can never be drained. That's where sediment quietly piles up, year after year, because every river carries dirt, and every reservoir is slowly filling with it. Above that is the working layer, the water actually used for drinking, irrigation, and hydropower. And above that, this is the important one, sits a layer of nothing. Empty air, held in reserve. That empty layer is flood storage, and it's the reservoir's catcher's mitt. When a massive storm hits, all that runoff has to go somewhere. If the reservoir were already full, the dam would have exactly zero ability to absorb the flood. Every drop coming in would have to immediately go out or up. But if engineers have kept the water level down, the reservoir can swallow the flood whole, hold it, and then release it slowly over days or weeks, at a rate the river downstream can actually handle. This is why reservoir operators do something that looks completely backwards. Right before the rainy season, they release water. On purpose, they drain down a resource that cities and farms desperately want, and they do it precisely when they know huge amounts of water are coming. It feels wasteful. It's actually the entire point. A flood control reservoir is most valuable when it's emptiest, because empty space is the only thing that can stop a flood. So the water level in a big reservoir isn't just sitting wherever the rain left it. It's being actively managed, sometimes daily, following a schedule called a rule curve. A chart that tells operators exactly how high the water is allowed to be on every single day of the year. Low before storm season. Higher in the dry months, when floods are unlikely and stored water is precious. The lake near you is breathing, and almost nobody notices. And here's something that makes the caution even more understandable. Water doesn't actually need to go over a dam to kill it. It can go through it. Every earthen dam seeps a little. That's normal, and engineers design drains inside the structure to collect that seepage and carry it out safely. But if water ever finds a fast path through the embankment, it starts carrying soil particles along with it. The path widens, the flow speeds up, more soil washes out. Engineers call this internal erosion, or piping, because the water is literally drilling a pipe through the middle of the dam. And the higher the reservoir sits, the more pressure is driving water into every tiny flaw in the structure. That's exactly what happened to the Teton Dam in Idaho in June of 1976. It was a brand new embankment dam, and its reservoir was filling for the very first time. As the water climbed toward full, a wet spot appeared on the downstream face. Within hours, the wet spot became a leak. The leak became a torrent. Crews with bulldozers tried to plug the hole and had to abandon their machines as the embankment collapsed around them. By that afternoon, the dam had breached completely, on the very first filling, before it ever held back a single flood. So when operators today raise a reservoir slowly, watch every gauge, and refuse to push the water those last few feet toward the crest, they're not being timid. They're reading history. But what happens when the storm is bigger than the plan? That's what spillways are for. A spillway is the dam's safety valve. A channel, usually made of reinforced concrete, designed to carry excess water past the dam without ever letting it touch the vulnerable crest. When you see water thundering down the face of a dam structure, you're usually not watching a failure. You're watching the safety system doing exactly what it was built to do. Engineers size these things for floods so extreme they may only happen once in thousands of years. They literally calculate the worst storm that is physically possible over that river basin and design for it. And yet even the safety systems have limits. In February 2017, that lesson arrived at Oroville Dam in California. The tallest dam in the United States, an embankment dam standing over 200 meters high. Heavy storms were filling the reservoir fast, so operators opened the main spillway, exactly as designed. Then a hole appeared in the spillway's concrete. Then the hole grew into a crater. With the main spillway crippled and the lake still rising, water began flowing over the emergency spillway, essentially a bare hillside, for the first time in the dam's history. That hillside started eroding far faster than anyone expected, and officials feared the erosion could eat backwards toward the structure holding the lake. Nearly 200,000 people downstream were ordered to evacuate. The dam itself held. The evacuation was lifted. But think about what that incident really revealed. The entire crisis was a battle to keep the water away from the top. Every decision, every desperate repair, every calculation came down to one number. The distance between the surface of the lake and the edge of the structure. The gap, the emptiness, the part of the dam that looks like nothing at all. There's one more twist, and it might be the strangest part. That empty space at the top of the reservoir isn't just protecting the dam from water. In a way, it's protecting the dam from time. Remember the sediment quietly filling the bottom of the reservoir? Decade after decade, it eats storage from below, while safety requirements hold the line from above. A reservoir is being squeezed from both directions for its entire life. The engineers who designed it knew that on day one, which is why so many dams were deliberately built bigger than they would ever be allowed to fill. They weren't overbuilding. They were buying decades. So the next time you drive past a reservoir and notice the water sitting well below that ring of exposed shoreline, don't see a lake that's low, see a system that's armed. That gap is wave protection. It's flood storage. It's the margin that separates a normal Tuesday from a wall of water moving down a valley. It's the most carefully calculated emptiness in your entire region. The dam near your city is deliberately kept less than full. Not because it's weak, but because the smartest thing a dam ever holds back is nothing at all.